Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, an Israeli official seemingly confirming Jerusalem's involvement in the United States' killing of IRGC leader Qassem Soleimani. Meanwhile, new restrictions unveiled in light of the Omicron coronavirus variant. And finally, Israeli Antiquities Authorities discovering a massive treasure from two different shipwrecks that sank in the exact same spot, but a millennium apart. To start, Israeli security forces reportedly thwarting a potential car-ramming terror attack Tuesday when a Palestinian man attempted to drive his car into a military checkpoint. Taking place near the Israeli settlements of Mevodotan and Einav in the West Bank, the IDF saying that the assailant was shot and killed before injuring any Israeli troops on site. But the attacker still crashing into a parked army jeep, whereby both vehicles were set ablaze. And in any case, the Hamas terror group again praising the attack, but without taking responsibility. This being the latest deadly attack in the same site since March 2018, when Captain Ziv Deus and Sergeant Nathaniel Kahlani were killed. Also, this is the latest in a series of recent lone wolf terror attacks across Jerusalem and the West Bank, the latest being a drive-by shooting just last Thursday, which left 25-year-old Yehuda Dimantman killed and two more injured. Now, speaking of preventing terror, a former IDF intelligence chief unveiling for the first time that indeed Israel was involved in the 2020 assassination of top Iranian commander Qassem Soleimani. Soleimani, who was the head of the IRGC, was killed by the United States in January 2020, and at the time he was the most prominent and influential military figure in Iran, in charge of orchestrating regional operations, i.e. he was responsible for achieving Iran's goal of building a land bridge between Tehran and the Mediterranean Sea. Israeli Major General Tamir Heyman, speaking in an interview with Malam magazine, confirming for once and for all, though, that Israel played a major role in his death. This after reports back in May suggesting that Israel had shared 3 of Soleimani's cell numbers with the United States just hours before the strike. Or simply put, Israel provided the United States with Soleimani's location. Until now, the IDF only commenting that Soleimani's death was a stabilizing event in the region for the near future. On to politics now. Chairman Mansour Abbas of the United Arab List, or Ram party, making headlines with an apparent change of heart. Speaking to Globe's Israel, Abbas saying that, quote, the state of Israel was born as a Jewish state and it will remain one, end quote. And the comments similar to an Arabic statement that he made a month ago. But this is a far cry from the supposedly default Arab-Israeli position in that Israel should be a, quote-unquote, state of all of its citizens and not characterized as a Jewish state. So where did this come from, and what will come of this next? Joining me to discuss is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Mark Schulman. Mark, it's great to have you back. Thank you so much. Now, this is a fairly big change for the leader of the Southern Islamic Movement of Israel, no? What do you think prompted it?
I'm not sure what prompted it. I mean, he's gotten pushback in his own community in the last 24 hours. I think he's trying to convince the Israeli public that he's a real partner. And maybe he's looking to become this. There was a survey done recently amongst the Arab Israelis that said that 60-some% of them wanted Abbas to become a member of the cabinet and actually join the government as opposed to joining the coalition. So maybe he's maneuvering for that. But this really is a very, very important statement. I mean, if Palestinian leadership, and first Arab Israeli leadership first and foremost, but then beyond that, Palestinian leadership would state that, we could end the conflict in 2 minutes. That is the very bottom, most important aspect of solving this conflict, is a realization that there was a partition agreement in 1947. It partitioned the land into a Jewish state and an Arab state, and the Jewish state is a Jewish state. And the Jewish state will protect the minority rights of all of its citizens, but it will be a Jewish state just the same.
All right, now you already mentioned that several people have already come out to criticize Abbas, but members of the Joint List and the Balad parties in the opposition are slamming Abbas, saying that he has a split personality. Do you imagine that the Ram electorate largely supports this position, or is Abbas about to alienate a bunch of Arab Israeli voters?
I think ultimately he represents the view of most Arab Israelis. Look, all the surveys of Arab Israelis, despite the fact that people on the left try to talk of them as Palestinians of Israelis of Palestinian descent and various things, but they self-identify as either Arab Israelis or as Israelis.